Good morning, everybody. Welcome to City Life. I'm Linda Bown. I'm your host. I have Colin Loiselle, Town Manager of Tyngsborough.
Good morning.
I'm so fortunate to have him in our town. And he comes all the way up here early in the morning.
I love it. It's a great way to start the day.
I told him I hit every single light coming here.
Really?
How often does that? Until I got hit to his favorite overpass, underpass, no pass.
Lawn cover-up project.
Then I came to a screeching halt. But other than that, it was very good coming in.
Chilly out,
peaceful.
though.
It's 27 in Tyngsborough.
Now,
Very
Colin,
cool.
you live in Boston proper?
Yes.
Okay, so how cold was it down there?
It was only 35. It wasn't
Okay,
bad.
so a lot warmer. Wow.
Yes. It's
Wow,
crazy
it
how
is.
just a little bit of distance makes
Yeah.
a difference on the temperature.
Oh.
It was a
Yeah,
morning
agreed.
for the heated seats, that's for sure.
Yeah.
They-
Absolutely.
They say it's also how much cement you have in your neighborhood. It retains the heat from
That's a good
overnight.
point.
That's interesting. Because you're absolutely right, because usually at the top of the hill, it isn't as cold as the bottom of the hill.
Interesting.
It's very nice. Heat rises.
It sure does.
Probably not that way. But it's lovely. I come down the hill now, and if it's at any time, it seems, we have two swans down there.
Beautiful.
Oh, it's so picturesque. Oh, I hope they're not shot.
Oh,
Anyway, bad.
Are they tasty swans?
Well, no, it was a issue there a couple of years ago.
the jet skis, right?
Huh?
This started with jet skis harassing
A jet
swans?
ski, a female swan had her babies, they carry them on their back, and a jet ski buzzed her, and she lost two of them. And then the male started buzzing all the jet skiers.
He'll teach
And,
them.
and he was very aggressive, so the association, first of all, they did a horrible thing. The next season, they addled the eggs, so they wouldn't hatch. And then
What, the eggs?
addled them, they shook them.
Oh, I didn't know what that was.
Learn something new every morning.
I bet you knew, Colin. See, you're bright.
Yes, yes.
See, oh, and
So
then,
you're addling the topic.
yes. Yes.
Stop addling and get to the point.
And then they shot the male, and they'd mate for life. And it was like a love story on the lake, but the one female swan wandering around, no babies, no mate. It was a real tearjerker.
Yeah.
So anyway, we have two now there, and they had like four that are grown now. They're gray, but they're almost full size. So, they're
That's a nice
coming
thing to
back,
see in
and
the morning.
they're coming back, and
They'll get their revenge.
yes, they will. But everybody loved watching them. But one of the problems is I walk up at Mayan Falls, and there's always swans up there, and I'm constantly talking to people saying, "Don't feed the swans because they're not friendly, and also it's bad for them, expands their stomachs and stuff, the bread, and same with the ducks. But then they get upset because I watch them, they walk around with their little toddlers and they go over the other side and then I see come out of the water. I go, oh, this isn't going to end well.
No, we set them up for failure because they're looking for food.
Yes, and they're so beautiful that I know it's tempting, but leave them alone
Absolutely.
if possible. So we had a town meeting, which I wasn't able to attend.
We did.
Everything went through, I heard, though.
Everything passed. We had a decent-sized crowd for a special town meeting. It's always tough. You know, we have 2 town meetings a year generally.
Yeah.
Our big one, of course, is in May, the annual town meeting. That's the exciting one where the budget gets approved. Generally, there's zoning articles. So getting a fall special town meeting, of course, it wasn't like there was anything else happening this fall, right?
Except a fundraiser for the Rotary. Go ahead.
Correct. We do have to do a better job vetting dates to make sure we're not competing. But, I mean, I think we had 120 people.
That's
which
good that's very good.
Tyngsborough is good. I mean, I tell people then, like, well, that doesn't sound.
And there wasn't anything controversial.
There wasn't anything controversial. There were a couple
Except the tax rate.
housekeeping items. And there were 2 zoning articles that were really just cleaning up mistakes. I mean, our zoning bylaws, you know, we did them. The last time we fully went through them was probably the 80s, and
Yeah.
then in 2023 we codified them, made some minor changes, nothing substantial. But over time, as we encounter new and unique situations, we're realizing that our bylaws are either silent on certain things, or in one section of the bylaw it says you can do this, and in another section it says you can't do this. And so the zoning review committee, which is made up of representatives of the planning board, the zoning board of appeals, and residents at large, spent the last 6 months working to clean up our sign bylaw. Nobody wants to become like a Route 1 where you've got all kinds of waving
we'll
banners.
talk about that
and,
after you finish. Go ahead.
and so those were, I would argue, the biggest items. And it wasn't changing the rules. It was clarifying because, again, in some places it said a restaurant could have 2 signs, and in others it said it could only have 1. So,
We had a very bad sign law that had to be cleaned up.
yes. And so now I'm not a zoning expert. I've learned a lot because I've had to, but now we have this beautiful table. You find your zone, you find your use, and then it shows you the type of. So from an enforcement perspective, it's a lot easier because
Yeah.
now our building commissioner or even staff in the office, if someone calls and says, "Hey, can I do this?" instead of us having to read through,
Yeah.
100 different pages, it's all in one spot, and it's easier for residents because now they know what they can and can't do.
Yeah. And talking about the zoning laws, it's you're right. There is things come along. You realize that like conservation comes up with certain just clarifying things that come up whether it's putting docks here or there. So it's just
Yeah.
interesting. So they have to and they just you have to keep up to date with what we're doing,
Right.
and we have to bring everything to the town meeting.
Right.
So, for a bylaw, anyway. So, the sign in the center of town, I know
Yes.
it's progress.
Yes.
Actually, I'm getting, when I first went up, I went, oh, no. Welcome to Lynn. No, it's a shock for,
Yeah.
when, from somebody that originally they didn't even have lights on the bridge. The
Right.
top of the bridge is sort
It's
of
a
like,
change.
but now I'm it's not as obtrusive as I thought it would be.
That is something I will put myself in the hot seat here and say that sign is my baby. I'm thrilled with it. But you're right. One of the things we worried about when we approached the Community Preservation Committee about putting in a sign on the First Parish, of course, folks that are familiar with Tyngsborough know we just spent quite a bit of money renovating the First Parish, worked really hard to keep
And this is the center of town, if anybody doesn't.
Yes. So we had all kinds of options, and one of the things the committee was clear about, and it has representatives from the Historic Commission, so we take their input very seriously, was that they wanted the facade of the sign to be subtle. And so we went with a classic brick appearance. The town's zoning bylaws used to prohibit all digital message boards.
That's right.
In 2023, they allowed them for educational and municipal uses. So if you own a parcel of land whose primary use is municipal or education, you can use a digital
So
sign.
the vote could use one.
It absolutely could. In fact, we've shared the information on the sign we purchased with the Voc. I believe
Because I know they
were-
want one.
Yes. And it also, the sign bylaw also prohibits flashing messages, videos, flashing
Okay.
lights. So you will never see, although our sign is capable of it, you will never see a video, you'll never see, as much as they look cool, the waving flag
Yeah.
backgrounds,
It's
you won't see
distracting.
any of that. It
Yeah.
will be a static message. It scrolls through other messages.
Yes, John.
It's against the law to have video.
Perfect. Then our bylaws in compliance.
And what did this toy cost us?
You know what? So the Community Preservation Committee allocated up to $100,000 for the sign. We spent close to 32.
32 grand?
32 grand. We were able to utilize. We have
That
a very
include installation?
that included installation. Fortunately, we have a
That's
very
cheap.
It was very cheap. It comes with a 15-year warranty, unlimited support. It's cloud-based, so no matter where I am, we can log online and do it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
So if there's an emergency all of a sudden, I come through the center of town, I know it. in the
10
center.
seconds it takes us to
Wow.
update that sign.
See,
And we-
I'm going to learn to love it.
You will, I promise.
As I say, it's not, when it first went up, I went, and I was scowling.
I like it. I like it. Tewksbury has one. I think it's a great.
And the first thing I thought of,
information.
well, I'm always complaining, I was going to use another term, about not keeping up with Oz, but I told them, watch out, we're coming.
Yeah, no, and the thing is, we, for probably 3 years since the pandemic, had parked this ugly orange highway sign on the corner of what I think is the cornerstone of our town center.
You're right.
And that message board, it's the one you see for road work. You can only get like 6 characters a line. And so we were spending 30 minutes putting together like a code word for a simple message. Nobody knew what we meant. So I think that we've gotten a lot of very positive feedback so far. You'll see that it's a very muted sign. I think the only change in color for Festival of Trees, we used a green background because it's
I saw
Christmas.
that yesterday morning. I saw that.
But it's going to really help us not just put out emergency messages, but let people know when town meeting is. It's only for government use, so we're not, there are very strict laws in Massachusetts. If you let one non-government use on your sign, you've got to now let everybody use the sign. So it's only for government use.
Good, okay.
And I think it's just another way. We have struggled in local government to communicate with people, and we can't keep expecting that people who are working a full-time job, raising a family, living their life, are going to seek out the information. We have to be the ones
You're right.
essentially forcing it on people.
So what, you'll be able to put no school up?
Yes.
Will you put no school up?
Yes. Oh, absolutely. If we needed to, we put no school up. I will tell you though, people.
Well, it's coming. With those no.
Oh
school
yes, in
days
the
are
winter.
coming.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I meant regularly scheduled no school days. People know that like the back of their hand. But yes, if there's a snow event, town offices are closed or
Did you guys do
schools closed.
vote today? Don't forget to vote or anything
We
like
did.
that? Good.
Oh, yeah. Do you know, what was the final turnout?
72% in Tyngsborough, and I got, I'm going to hijack it for a second to say that we are so fortunate. We have a new town clerk. I'm not
Yes.
sure if you had a chance to meet her yet, Jessica Brunel. She absolutely crushed it this year. I think our results were posted by 10:15, and she was able to crush it not just because she has dedicated staff in that office, but because she really leveraged the help that was being offered by both our town Republican committee and the town Democratic committee. I mean, there were people from both parties in that office.
I was out there. I was out all day, and I have never, first of all, in 50 years, I never saw a response like I saw at this election, where everybody seemed happy, and when I ever walked in and saw that, that the registrars were there, that there was a Republican at the,
Yeah.
now, way back, that was an issue. It was back when I started, it was that it was a Republican town, and you couldn't get, the Republicans,
Gotcha.
the Democrats were always fighting to get in, and then it has flipped. And I was so happy because it's been so lax for so long, and not just Tyngsborough, but because they couldn't get people, and they didn't have an active Republican committee, and so they had a lot of independents that weren't actual Republicans.
Right.
And that gets a little dicey because, we had a clerk that was an independent, so then,
Right.
but you knew she was a Democrat. It gets really kind of, convoluted.
It doesn't. I mean, you're entirely correct. I think for years, everybody in Tyngsborough was not immune to this struggle to find people who, look,
Yeah.
I give major props to people who are willing to spend 14, 15 hours at a polling place, sitting there, reading names. That's a lot of work. It sounds
It's a lot more
simple.
fun when it's busy, though.
I believe it. I believe it. And so we just, as every municipality did, you had the same list of people who looked forward to this every year. We opened it up this year, and the results couldn't have been better. I mean, we had more help than we've ever had before. And the best part is, and this is true about every piece of government, when you bring people into the fold, they lose the skepticism they have about government.
Yeah.
When people can see how things work.
It's transparent, and
Absolutely.
they're not concerned that you're hiding, and rightly so. rightly
Right.
so, because they may not have meant to be as I say, not transparent to
Right.
people. I didn't ever question them, but it made people uneasy.
Absolutely.
And the wardens were coming up, and they had a list, and they would actually tell everybody where they were supposed to go. So just that little thing cut down in the confusion.
Yeah.
That little bitty thing. So it was, so things are going well in town, aren't
Things
they?
are going very well in town, and we're seeing that. I mean, again, this brought in people who I had never met before.
Yep.
People who now want to be involved in local government. And, we finished and graduated our first class from the Civic Leadership Academy at special town meeting. And one of those people already signed up and was appointed to fill a vacancy on the Finance Committee. The moderator appointed him
Wow.
last week. So we have a lot of really good things happening. And when people see the impact they can make, and when they just learn how government works, I mean, the state is always changing the rules. The goalposts are always moving.
Yep.
And again, just like communication, we have a responsibility to meet people where they are and get them involved. And once you give somebody that opportunity, people dive
Yeah.
right in.
I love Finance Committee. I think that, particularly in town government, because people when they come to a town, they don't understand town government. And even with a manager, it's a little different. The town meetings are different. And I did 5 terms over the years, and I found that it gives you the insight of how to go to a town meeting, read a budget. And like Eric Gitchia, one of the things you have to give Eric credit for is that he knows how to read a budget. And
Yeah.
it's not that easy. It can't, once you get to know it, you know where to go. And
Right.
but they slap something down on the table, and it's 500 pages, and
Oh, yeah.
it's
49
daunting.
49 million, and that's another thing we have to take responsibility for. It's my job, our finance director's job, to make sure that the budget is presentable and that people, for years, I can remember going to town meetings before I was in this role, and I'd be like, well, wait a minute, this person just showed up to town meeting, we gave them a warrant that had the $48 million budget, and then in 3 seconds, the budget is approved. Who had time to really read and dive
Right.
in? And so, that's why last year we started our first budget office hours. We did, I think, 3 or 4 of them at different times of the day so that people, and not everybody wants to get into the detail, but those that do have an opportunity to say, what are we really spending our money on? And I think one of the visuals that I'm excited about that we started using last year is showing generally where the money's going. So we break it down by public safety, general government, DPW, school. Because again, you look at a 7 or 8 page Excel spreadsheet that just has department codes and maybe it's got the department name. It's really hard to figure out, well, what does that really account for?
And towns don't get the reimbursement from the state at all, that like
No.
a Lowell does. And so they come from a city, and they don't understand why that so much of their tax money is going to the schools.
Yeah.
So it's again, it's hard to understand town government. So I commend all your new volunteers and the people are getting, and I just love those figures, that number, because I've been to a lot of town meetings, and
Yeah.
it's depressing.
And this only had 8 warrant articles.
Yeah.
8 warrant articles. And like I said, nothing super controversial. There was some CPC funding to help us increase the stuff that we were doing at the Sherburne
Colin, in your
project.
mind, would you explain what a warrant article is to a city person?
Absolutely. So in towns, the legislative branch of municipal government is town meeting. So any registered voter in most communities, some communities have representative town meeting. Chelmsford's one of those. You have to run to be a member. But town meeting is the legislative body. They set the budget. They change zoning bylaws. They change the town bylaws. We present the items that we want people to vote on in the form of a warrant article. So the warrant is basically a ballot that says, here's all the things town meeting is going to vote on, and each individual
So
item
it's
is called an article.
administration's presentation to the body.
In most cases, however, in town meeting, also residents can get warrant articles on through a citizen's petition. So with 100 signatures in a special town meeting and only 10 on an annual town meeting, any resident can pose a question to town meeting and get their own warrant article, regardless of what the content is. We much prefer that residents work with us to put together a warrant article, because a lot of times if they don't engage us, we end up with a warrant article that's either not enforceable or
That's right.
violates the state constitution, and the Attorney General strikes it down. But it could be, I think 2 town meetings ago, we had 8 or 9 citizens
Yeah.
petitions.
Yeah, it's,
Thank you.
Yeah.
One of the things that has always bothered me in the past is that some of the articles that should come up at annual have come up at special town meetings. And that's been, and I don't think we'll see as much of that now with the manager. Because you shouldn't be, I think it's very awkward to be changing bylaws, to be doing certain things at a special.
Yeah.
And people will question, you set yourself up because people are going to say, oh, sure, you did that, and when you knew nobody would be here.
Right.
And in the past, that has happened in all towns. That's the name of the game,
Yeah.
You want certain things. So all of that is changing, and I'm quite pleased that but it's hard. It's hard teaching old dogs new tricks, and when we've been used to just a town meeting and all, but I'm seeing an improvement. I really am quite happy with.
That's very good to hear.
With what's going on.
I think there's a lot of reasons to be optimistic about Tyngsborough, where we've got a lot of good but measured economic development happening in town. We're not, willy-nilly throwing businesses here or there. Our planning board does a very good job, and our conservation commission, of course, as well as part of that land use process, making sure that businesses are being situated in appropriate locations and
Yeah.
still protecting what I think people like about Tyngsborough, which is the balance of there's something to do now. There are businesses you can go to, you're close to Lowell, Nashua, but you still have that small town charm.
Okay, here we go. What is with the two crosswalks at Enclave? Where are they walking to? There are no signs.
Very good question.
I said, wait a
I'm
minute,
glad-
stop.
I'm glad you asked.
I'm standing there letting the deer go by. Go ahead.
Yes, we are training deer in Tyngsborough to use rapid flashing beacons. Those were requirements under the planning board special permit. The thought, and I can't speak for the planning board, but I watched all of their meetings intently. I think that their logic was they wanted residents living at Enclave to be able to get across the street to the town's open space parcel and recognize that Sherburne is very windy. People, whether they should be or not, are driving
Yeah.
relatively
Oh,
fast.
yeah.
So you're correct, at street level, there's no sidewalk. The planning board also required that Toll Brothers install kind of a quasi sidewalk that's on the town parcel.
Yes, that bicycle.
Yeah, yeah. So I think that was the
It's this
intention.
big.
Whether or not we needed two,
Yeah.
I guess, is up for interpretation, but they're complying with their
Right.
special.
Now, is there going to, I assume there's going to be a break then going across?
Yes, currently there's one, is at the second crosswalk if you're coming from the bridge, closer to where the rental units are being constructed.
Right, well, that was from the golf course anyway.
Yes, and they
originally.
repurposed that.
So, and they should, yeah, because there's a wall there. I assume that they'll be responsible for doing that if they,
Yes.
because you can't have them jumping over the wall.
No, that would be quite a risk.
The wheelchairs will be very sporting to watch, but,
Yes, that would be problematic.
so, no, I just sort of said, what's going on here, so.
Yes, they were required to put in those two, and then also the speed feedback sign, which you see now, which is a nice reminder that we all have to slow down every
Yes,
once in a while.
as I go zooming by them, I notice them, yeah.
Whoops.
Well, I'll tell you, Sherburne, you really can't. Anybody that knows Sherburne, you can't really zoom on it because
No.
it is so winding, and you just don't know what's around the corner there. And there's quite a bit of wildlife still,
Absolutely.
which is nice going down through. Now that you've done amazing things, that whole part of the golf course.
Yes.
Now that's where the courts are going.
That's where the courts are going. If you drive by now, you can tell which courts will be which. I think they're putting the finishing touches right now on the horseshoe pits and the bocce courts. They will.
Do we have a lot of people playing bocce?
So
They're
I'm not
coming.
sure.
They're on their way.
Yeah, we're recruiting.
I'm just curious. I didn't.
Well,
So
how
this-
can you play football without a football greenery? How can so? You got to build. You got to have a hit. Look at. You want to have like out in Tewksbury. They're talking about one of those. It's the new tennis. I don't know what they call it, but
Pickleball.
Pickleball. So Tewksbury, like they're clamoring for pickleball, and they're going to get the town's going to provide it.
Well, if you build it, they'll come, I assume, and we may be the bocce center of the whole area.
Yeah, I was not as involved in this process. The select board in 2023 set up a committee that was made up of strictly residents.
Yep.
And members of our rec committee, and they brainstormed all of the activities they wanted over there. Bocce made the made the cut, so
That's
maybe I'll learn
just
how to.
amazing.
But I will tell you that we have 6 pickleball courts going in
yes,
at the same
yeah.
parcel, so.
And they have, interestingly enough, they're going to have pickleball courts in Enclave as well for
Yes.
their own.
Yes.
Which is, I hope that doesn't get confusing for people to think that they can go across the street to Enclave, which they can't.
They certainly cannot. I think they'd find a hard time
Real
getting
quick.
into it. Yeah, I didn't even realize that until I was out at the Sherburne parcel, which we're going to name soon because calling it the Sherburne Ave parcel is driving me through a wall. And I was talking to a couple that moved to Tyngsborough. They live in the Enclave. They moved from Georgetown, I think. And that they were talking about how they love walking on that parcel, and it's great that the town has this open space land now. And they mentioned that they had pickleball courts too, and I was like, oh, well, we have ours as well, so.
Yeah, well, it may be good for them to meet people in town,
Yeah,
and if they have teams, they can play each other,
yes.
the Enclave versus the town.
Yeah, and we'll open that parcel permanently this spring. I'm hoping mid-March, late March. All of the work will be done this fall before the winter comes, except for the finishing touch on the courts.
Mm-hmm.
It requires, I think, 10 consecutive days above 55 degrees or something. So we don't want to risk it. We'll wait till the spring. We'll apply that final code.
When's the building going to be open and?
It will, at the very least, open in time to be available when those courts are open. One of the things that we're working on now is figuring out what its primary use will be. We don't want it to be another building that you have to rent to access. Of course, right now we rent out the First Parish and the Old Town Hall, and that's been a tremendous success. Our vision for this is that it's much more of a community center.
Okay.
The problem, of course, with that is you need staff at a community center.
Yeah.
So there's a small office there. We're looking at what the staffing will look like, but it will certainly be open for bathroom facilities, for people to hang out. It's gorgeous inside. We'll probably do an open house so people can see,
Yeah.
just how good it came out. But it will largely be a community center, open particularly when those courts are available, but probably host some other events as well.
Now, I know this probably shouldn't be is that road going to be open?
A quick comment from the audience. If you build it, they'll come, just like the shelter in law. Thank you for your comment.
Is that road going to be a cut through?
No, it will have, I think it still has, but it's open, but it will have the same type of gate that they used to have.
Okay.
And in
Curious.
fact, we'll be.
I was just curious because I would have thought for Enclave, where you're putting in 100 homes there, plus the rental, it's going to put a real burden on going down Sherburne,
Yeah.
either way.
MassDOT a couple times now, those lights that, the Sherburne, the light at Frost and Pawtucket Boulevard where things start to get kind of tied up, and then the bridge, of course, those lights are managed by MassDOT. They've been out 3 or 4 times now, and we're certainly Toll Brothers has not sold all of their units yet, so we're not seeing the full impact.
Right.
Another comment from the audience, 1.3 million on Sherburne
No.
for Enclave residents only.
No, just to clarify for folks watching at home, the money that the town is spending on the public parcel is that 1.3, a little less. What Linda was mentioning is that on the Enclave side, which is of course just for residents, they built themselves a pickleball court, but certainly anything the town is spending money on is for all residents of the town. It's not restricted just to Enclave.
So I assume then the road will be open when the fields are open. Is that how it's going to work? The gates?
We'll be in, actually probably not. One of the things that we don't want is making that turn from Pawtucket Boulevard up to the clubhouse is kind of a quick
Yep.
turn. It's certainly not as bad if you're coming from Lowell and you're just going to bang that right into the parking lot. If you're coming from the bridge and trying to take a left, particularly in rush hour, that's kind of dicey. So we don't want people to use that as a main egress
Okay.
or exit. It does need to be there for a
Yep.
fire lane. So in all likelihood, that gate will probably be closed most of the time, and the fire department and police department will have a key to it.
Well, one of the things that is a possibility where it is not our road, and I assume you could get somehow, if you get the feds involved, if we could have a light there so that if the town decides to develop that land on the river, because that's part of it.
Yeah, that is a good point.
That's a lovely piece right on the river, and so if you wanted to do something there.
Yeah. more rapid flashing beacons so people can cross, because that
Yeah.
is also
Like they
kind
have down at the golf course. I mean, down at Vespa, they have one.
and all along the boulevard, really.
Yeah, yeah. So it's just a thought that as we sort of become more popular, right? I just was curious how they're going to get in and out, and same on Sherburne. It's just
Yeah.
so that will become more the speed things and all will become more relevant.
More relevant, yes.
when,
Yeah,
when
once everybody's
the
there.
animals don't have to use it alone. So, yeah, it is what it is. I mean, it's hard sometimes to let go of things,
Mm-hmm.
and there it is, and we have to do the best we can, adapt to it.
Yeah.
So I just the way it is, just where it's laid out in Sherburne Avenue, you're going to have to. There's just so much you can do. I mean, you can't make that a 4-lane road. You know,
No.
it never will be. So
Yeah, one of the things, the planning board did require as a part of the development that Toll Brothers do a traffic study, and, their traffic study said that because of the type of residences they were building, the 55 plus, their traffic study doesn't account for a lot of like rush hour commuting because a lot of these people are retired. But certainly you're putting, 100 homes, you got to imagine that every house has at least one car.
yeah,
They're going to the grocery store, they're going to.
and you're going to have the
restaurants.
apartments, and they're not going to. They're not 55 and over. Right?
No, those are unrestricted age-wise.
At one point, wasn't there talk one of them was going to be for veterans?
Not at that parcel. There are 4 units there that were restricted to affordable, and those have been filled through a lottery. What we've long talked about, and not to bring it back to my favorite entity, the state of Massachusetts, but what we're waiting on the state for is there is a property on Indian Lane that
Yes, that house.
Yes, CPC allocated, I think, at one point they allocated up to $800,000 to renovate that
Oh, yeah.
and use that as an affordable unit reserved for a veteran and or their family.
Now, the reason they took those houses over, because the state took some of that land. Now, that house, there's not town sewage there, is there? Oh, yeah, they could, the pump house is right across the
Yeah, they
street.
could connect.
Okay.
And
That's
we
the
were-
difference, there's the difference right there.
Absolutely, and we were very close to the state has agreed in principle and up until last year was moving forward with just giving us the house. That was always the plan.
Yes, yeah.
I think it got caught up in last year's revenue debacle where the state said, oh, wait a minute, we don't have as much money as we thought. They put a hold on all of their real estate transfers, and even though they wouldn't sell this parcel, they wouldn't get much money for it, it's become victim
Yeah.
to that holdup, and so we check in regularly with MassDOT Real Estate, and as soon as the money from CPC is allocated, it's sitting there, it can't be spent on anything else unless town meeting
Right.
cancels the project, so hopefully the state comes
It's
along, 'cause
already
it's a
there.
nice,
It is, it's a
nice location, it's a
it
nice
is.
parcel.
But I think that whole area, I remember when the state came in, God bless them, their little hearts. They, and it's like anything else, they come up with a plan, and they have all these little trees and everything, and then they drop it, and nobody maintains it.
Yep.
So, and you see it in Lowell, you see it in the highways, they have areas, when they first put it in, they put annuals in and everything, everybody's quite happy, and then it becomes just bittersweet and awful stuff, so.
Yeah.
So it ends up, I suspect, I don't know what you can do with that, because it's state land. Can the town maintain?
We shouldn't, but we do have some ability to lobby the state to take care of it. I think a great example, if you've ever taken the Westford Road exit off of Route 3, if you're heading north, 2 years ago, it was littered with tree limbs that were falling down, and after much, I guess harassing is probably the right term, MassDOT put out a project, and they came and they cleared a bunch of those dead trees, which quite frankly were a safety issue.
Yeah?
So there are, we have a decent relationship with MassDOT, so there are some things that we can do when areas that they maintain aren't being taken care of. We have, from time to time, a great example that most people don't think of is the bridge is part of a numbered highway, and so technically the state is responsible for sanding it and plowing
Yes.
it. Obviously, though, with the number of vehicles that go over that every day, we can't sit by and wait for MassDOT to send.
Oh, and it used to be bizarre. The state would come in and there'd be snowbanks. You could tell.
Incredible.
It was awful.
So we will,
Awful intersection.
I don't know if I should admit this on TV, but we will maintain that until the state can get to it because it's a public safety.
Yeah. Oh, particularly
Issue.
Frost Road. It's interesting. Frost Road and Sherburne, you get a little snow. They're both slight hills that you don't notice driving. If you walk them, you notice them. But they can get very slick very quickly.
Yes.
So I do that's what I travel. That's one of my routes, and the town always maintains that very well.
Yeah, our highway department does a fantastic job. They all know their routes. And we have a lot of, we're a small town. We rely quite a bit on vendors, so we have a lot of outside vendors that come in and help as well. But patience is key, obviously, in the winter.
And there used to be, that in itself must be different, because there used to be a problem with getting the subs to come in, and because they had to have a certain type of insurance, or they changed things at the time. So now with a manager, I imagine that's a little more, and DPW.
It's a little easier. One of the things that we do that is successful is instead of, because you're right, the insurance component, especially nowadays, is a big hurdle. Somebody that has a landscaping business or a construction business and they're already maintaining insurance, it's a lot easier for them. For somebody who in the winter just uses their pickup truck and their plow, getting a commercial insurance policy is expensive. So what we started to do probably 6 or 7 years ago, we'll hire in the winter 5 or 6 seasonal employees and put them in a town truck so they don't have to carry the same level of insurance. But
Because
finding vendors is tough.
Yeah, because they take out mailboxes and things. Go ahead.
Yes.
Yes, John.
Colin, my company, the funeral homes we have across the driveway here, we have an insurance policy that covers every vehicle that any of my employees drives. So hypothetically, you come down from New Hampshire and you're going to your grandmother's funeral and you want valet parking, so one of my guys drives your car. You have no insurance on your car. And accidentally we roll over your foot, okay? Our insurance company covers that accident. So when are you self-insured, or do you have an insurance company for the town?
We're self-insured.
So something you might consider, that have your own, you're gonna talk to your town attorney and ask he or she, hey, can we just insure these plow trucks? And you're gonna have to bump up the investigation on the driver to, turn over, okay.
Oh, I
give
see
us your
what you're
driver's
saying.
license, you're gonna turn over to
Yeah.
the police department, make sure you're not a pedophile, make sure it's accurate, you're not a drunk
Right.
driver. And for a certain amount of people, you just cover the insurance.
Yeah.
Just an idea.
I assume they have to have a CDL to get into one, or do they do?
No, it depends on what type of truck they're driving. The other thing that we struggle with, and I cringe when I drive through Lowell, they've got their signs out now, and I was in Tewksbury not too long ago, they have their signs out. It's like a race to the top when it comes to paying vendors. Every year, each community increases the dollar amount they're paying. So, we make an adjustment one year, and I think, okay, now we're close to where our peers are. And then I drive through Lowell, and they're $10 more, or I drive through Tewksbury, and they're $5 more. And I'm like, we just changed this. So
Okay,
that's
can
the
I
other
ask
piece.
what our rate is for, is that a?
Yeah, it depends on the type of truck you have. I think right now, if you have,
I got a regular Ford 250 pickup truck.
then you're if you were in Tyngsborough, you'd be at $85 an hour. If you had the big truck, which we don't have a lot of roads that can use the big trucks, I think that we're offering $120. We're very much in line with Drakeit, Chelmsford.
Now, how soon do I get, my problem.
Same week.
My friend, he had a plow business, and he went broke because the town wouldn't pay him until like 6 months later.
Oh, no.
What's going on now?
We'll pay you the same week.
Same week.
Because the relationship we have with you is as a vendor, we don't have to wait for the next payroll. We pay you in the next vendor check. We run checks every Tuesday, so you'll never wait more than 10 days maybe for a check.
How do I bill you?
We keep track. So when you show up to work for us, we check you in at the highway department, make sure that your lights are working, make sure the plow works, send you out on a route. We say, John started at 10, and then when we call you off for the rest of the day, we say John ended at 11. And so we'll send you a check with it's not really an invoice, it's a summary from us saying here are the days you worked.
Do you know where I'm driving?
Yes.
Cool.
Not in real time. We don't have tracking, obviously, on private,
Yeah.
on our vendors' vehicles, but vendors, we've had the same vendors for the most part for quite some time, so they all have the same route, but certainly, we don't just say, Linda, go out and plow wherever you want. We send you to a specific route.
Good. Thank you.
It's quite
Yeah.
the system, really.
Yeah, I know the vendors in my neighborhood. They've always,
Yes.
and they're very nice, by the way. Of course, we're a town. We don't seem to have the problems that they have in a city where, you hear people that shovel, and then the plow comes by and puts all the snow back in your driveway. I've known them, I've seen them, and even some of the ones that I don't know that go by, they're very accommodating.
Well, Linda, someday we don't have a guest. I'll tell you how you can prevent that plow from dumping all that snow in your driveway.
Well, I'm kind of curious now.
Oh, it's really simple. The guy who plows your driveway, you have him put a big, gigantic area, like if you were going to we'll use my house for an example. So I take the plow, and wherever I'm going to put my barrels, I plow up the street, on the street, moving the snowbank 20 feet away from the driveway. Now, when the plow truck comes down the street, he's got a ton of snow that's on his blade all the time. He's going to come to this hole in the snowbank, and the whole load on his plow is going to get dumped in that hole, not in your driveway.
Oh, that's a good point.
Oh,
Did you get that?
no. To me, it sounds like it's going to make it worse.
No, it works fantastic. Because he's got no load he can dump in your driveway.
Oh, I see. Oh, way up. So you're actually plowing your whoever neighbors and stuff like that. Is that what you're saying?
I'll get a picture and I'll come back to this.
Okay. I got
Picture's worth
confused.
1,000 words.
Hey, I'm blonde. What can I say?
No, it's just,
One
one of my hobbies is plowing snow, so.
I know it is. I
I
know.
know
Wait,
how to
where do you
play
come
with
in
snow.
when there's snow? And you can park on his lawn and everywhere.
Oh, there's
Yeah,
no
you gotta
snow
make-
left on the property.
You have to make room for the next storm.
Yeah, I know. I love it. You're absolutely right. And that's the other thing in towns that you, well, I suppose you have in the city as well, but you'll see them at the first storms to make sure, because the roads are narrow.
Very narrow.
Of course, not as narrow, I suppose, as Lowell, but very aware of where we're going with the things. And and some people do park on the road. You can tell.
Oh, yes.
It's,
Yeah. It's not as big of an issue.
Do we have a bylaw
Yes.
on snow?
Yeah, it goes into effect November 1st, and I think it lasts through April 1st. It is not our first recourse to tow someone.
Yeah.
I could think of some of the streets, like in the States neighborhood on the west side of town, those roads are wide enough that, while it's not ideal, a plow truck could get around. Certainly, though, in many of our lake neighborhoods, a vehicle being parked on the street would absolutely hinder our ability. We would tow that.
Well, not only the plowing, I mean, living on top of the hill, you need to get a bit of a running start to get up
Yes.
Hey, you guys toasty, warm, cold?
there. I'm
Good?
very warm and toasty.
Want me to turn it down, or you good?
Well, I don't.
I'll make it cooler, I
I'm very
should say.
comfy.
I'm comfortable.
Okay, I'll leave it alone.
So, of course, I'm not outside where
Well,
it's
no, I-
27, but yeah.
It's going to warm up to the 40s today, I think. So
Well, it is a terrible realization that fall is here, and
yes.
but it is November, so
It
we're
is.
done
And
very
we've
well.
been lucky. We had a little tease into fall, and then
Yeah.
it was 70s again. We should have to dive right in, I think.
So you've got your graduates from the course,
Yes.
and
Okay,
what are
I'm
they?
backing up the bus here, okay? Here is a satellite shot of the property you're sitting on, okay?
Yep.
Now, here's the curb right along. You can see cars parked here. So
Yeah.
it snows like the dickens. So when the plow comes down the street, the plow moves all the snow to the right. So the snowbank gets created here.
Where are those cars? So you have a ban, right?
They've already been gone. So on a
Okay.
snowy day,
Okay.
they still park there.
Okay.
They dare this. No, we're city people. We dare the city to come and tow us. We dare you. So, but this is where the snowbank will be.
Yeah.
So here's my driveway. Now, if we take, these pictures are coming up. So when I'm plowing snow, I'll go out here on this side of the street and I'll take this snowbank and I will push it up to this car, right up to this guy's nose, okay? So right here, it's blind to the curb. So now the snowplow comes down the street, and he's got all the snow on his blade, it's pushing it to the right. He gets to this hole in the snow blank, and all the snow on his blade goes in here.
On
Because
the
there's
sidewalk.
room for it.
It goes in where the snowbank used to be, where I pushed it up to this guy's nose.
And it's missing your driveway.
So you can't park, so they can't possibly park there.
No, it has to do with, now he has no snow to dump in my driveway.
Okay.
See, the mission is, okay, I plow my snow, well, tell your plow guy to, on the, just in front of your house, push the snow back 20, 30 feet while he's there. And when the plow truck comes down the street, it's like magic. All the snow from his blade goes in there and it doesn't go in front of your driveway.
You
I
know,
hope that helps.
on, when the office was on Kendall Road, because that's a state highway.
Blondie.
And I used to have, Bown, and shoveling wasn't on his agenda at all. And those snowbanks were awful.
Oh, I can only imagine.
It just was like, and they weren't as nice as our town ones. I'd be out there in the dark and they'd bury me.
Oh, God.
They were just nasty, so. But the fire department would put the lights out so I could shovel at night and not get run over.
That's terrible.
Yeah, it can be state roads can be very difficult, so. Anyway, moving along. So, we have, are they going to go into volunteer? You said one is on the finance committee?
Yeah, we had a
Somebody?
vacancy on the finance committee, and in Tyngsborough, if there's a vacancy on the finance committee, it's filled by the town moderator until the next election. So we had one graduate of that program signed up, met with the moderator, and the moderator appointed him to fill the vacancy. So he'll serve now until May, and if he wants to stay on, he'll have to run for a full term. Some of them have expressed interest in getting involved. We have a few vacancies on various boards right now, and I think, finance committee is a great place to start because, like you said, it gives you a good baseline understanding. But even, we have a lot of people that get involved for the first time by joining our Council on Aging.
Yeah.
And that's a good introduction to government. But there's so many different ways. Our Commission on Disability has vacancies. There's quite a few different avenues for people to get involved. These folks seem interested. We'll run it again next year and hopefully get some new faces. What I was most proud about this cohort is they were all people that had no involvement in government before. So it was exactly who we were trying to target, is people that some of them had lived in town forever, maybe they just retired and so now they have time to get engaged. Some just moved to town.
Yep.
And they wanted to be more connected with the community.
Well, I saw when the Legion opened, we got quite a few people. I was at the membership table for the auxiliary, and the sons next to me. But when you have a growth in Tyngsborough, and they just don't know where to go, and now that was a good, because a lot are coming in. Now will that cause growing pains? Absolutely, as you
Right.
know, when you start getting new people, and they're like the sign, there are going to be changes,
Right.
and we all have to kind of adapt to some things and see the upside to what might be happening. And we have the Festival of Trees coming, which is a huge thing in Tyngsborough.
Yes, that starts the Friday after Thanksgiving. It runs that weekend and stays open until the following Saturday, which is when I believe Santa comes.
Allison does an amazing job. Now, how does somebody get involved with putting a tree in the Festival of Trees?
Visit TyngsboroughMay.gov has a big banner with Festival of Trees. You can sign up to be a vendor, to do a tree. Call our rec department. It's 978-649-2300, extension 153, I'm fairly certain. I think you only have a limited amount of time left to register a tree.
Okay.
But every year they add more and more trees and more activities for kids, for adults, for families. It's a really great time. Again, Festival of Trees, just like Block Party, is completely funded by revenue from the last year's program. So I just always find it important because people don't know how the budget works. It's not supported by the operating budget. So
Right.
it's, aside from the fact that Allison, of course, is a town employee, The rest of it is purely volunteers.
Now, the trees are they're in the town hall and the meeting house, is that correct?
Correct. They're in the old town hall, the meeting house, and we use the Littlefield Library now for the craft vendors, and that's where they do like the little holiday market.
That's amazing.
Yes.
I love the little.
And that was a great partnership between the rec committee and the historical commission. They worked last year for like 3 weekends in a row, starting in September, to organize the space, to clean it up a little bit. Last year it was gorgeous in there. It was very picturesque. There was that little fireplace.
Oh yeah, I did all my studying there in college. It was just it was a gym that people didn't necessarily. Oh, there's our new police chief.
So we got a new police chief, Sean Woods.
Yes.
I got to tell you, John, when I was appointing him, I said to him, I said, listen, there are people that don't think I should give you a contract, but we did end up giving him a contract.
You stinker.
I was waiting for this one.
How long is if he's a great guy, he's a great guy.
Well, I will also say,
how long is like in Lowell, the silly heads we call the city council gave a completely inexperienced guy $250,000 a year and a 5-year contract.
yeah.
That was dumb. So, before I say that about you, how long of a contract did you give this
It's
guy?
a 3-year contract.
Good start.
And the one thing I will tell you, certainly we're not paying $250,000 for any position in Tyngsborough.
Well, no, this is our manager.
Yeah, okay. The one thing
Lowell manager.
I did want to say is that Tyngsborough, like most of our neighbors, and I'm sure just like Lowell, has a strong chief, and that is a section of law that gives really a lot of authority to the chief. It also, believe it or not, puts serious restrictions on how you get rid of a chief. And fortunately, I have no reason to ever suspect that I'd want to get rid of Chief Woods, but one of the things that we're able to do because we have an employment contract is add language that protects the town. So you see this happen with managers more frequently than police chiefs, but certainly given the nature of a police chief's role, there are instances where the town and the police chief want to part ways. And under Mass General Law, you can't simply not renew a police chief's contract. With my contract, if the select board decides, we don't really like you anymore, Colin, but we don't want to go through the work of firing you, they could just say, we're not renewing your contract, and when mine expires, I'm out. It doesn't work like that with the police chief. So we're able to add language to his contract, which again, we'll never need with Sean Woods, that would allow us to simply not reappoint him. It avoids all the issues you get when you fire somebody, obviously the legal challenges. And again, you'd be hard-pressed to find a police chief that would...
Well, to our neighbor in Dragon.
Yeah.
The police chief, and this is my opinion, not anybody else, my opinion. The police chief and the select board, that relationship soured.
Mm-hmm.
And my memory is they had a very difficult time telling that guy to skedaddle. Now, whether he's still the chief or not, I have no idea. But, so, the method that you used to give the Sean Woods a contract, if things sour, you can part ways.
Yeah, and I'll also say, it's not just about protecting the town. From an employee standpoint, certainly he has some protections in there as well. But the biggest piece is that it does create a process for ending the relationship, and it overcomes that hurdle that the strong chief law puts in that says basically, if the town decides this isn't working out, and sometimes that happens in communities, we both go our own ways. There's no need to fight. And labor challenges in court, whether it's with the Department of Labor, mediation, arbitration, those get very, very expensive.
So when you were talking with Sean about, okay, I'm thinking of making you chief, and what changes do you see coming to the Tyngsborough Police Department? What changes do you think Sean's going to bring? What changes did you talk to him about?
Yeah.
And if you can say. If you can't say, you can't. There's a lot of stuff you can't talk about.
Happy to say. I think one of the things that we were fortunate, we have a police department that was already very well run, very community oriented. We have a lot of really strong police officers. I think that the next step for Tyngsborough and all of our departments, it's not unique to the police department, it's certainly true for all of our departments, is having the forward-looking approach to say, what are we doing now that we can do more efficiently? Where can we save money? Things aren't getting cheaper. State aid is remaining the same, if not decreasing, particularly for communities like Tyngsborough. And Sean Woods, I think, is uniquely qualified to make those assessments because of how familiar he is with the department. He lives in town. He's lived in town for 30 years, so he's got a vested interest in paying taxes that are reasonable and fair. Has the respect of the department, so any of those changes, these are people that know him and respect him. one of the risks you always run if you were to bring in somebody from the outside is that you get no buy-in from people on the inside.
I don't care for that. I'd rather hire a
We've already
townie.
been there and done that.
I'd rather hire a townie, Are they wearing body cams?
We don't have body cams in Tyngsborough.
When are they coming?
It is not a conversation that we've had yet. I think
It protects everybody.
it certainly does, and I've heard that from some officers. It would require, obviously part of it is the upfront investment. Another part of it, as is the case with every police union, there's some negotiations that go into that. But I will say this, I've talked to police officers in Tyngsborough. I have no doubt that they would be open to it should the town make that an
Yeah,
opportunity.
the cops that I know, that there was a lot of pushback, but once they got it, this thing is great.
Oh, absolutely.
They like the protection it gives them.
Anybody can make a claim nowadays.
Yeah.
And
Oh.
if you truly have nothing to hide, the best way to prove it is if you were, which
So-
is a sad statement on ours.
But it's not even a talking point on your, I'll keep badgering you about
You
this.
can, yeah. It's come up in conversations. It's certainly not something that we have immediate plans for.
Not a high priority, I would think, in Tyngsborough.
No, I think the last time we looked at it, the upfront investment was something like $40,000. And it's not just buying the equipment. It's you have to
The
have
cloud
somebody.
and all the other good stuff.
Now, where we have so many state roads, I think we probably have in our intersection, maybe, when you look at it, probably more than a lot, because we're right on Route 3, we got 110, we got 113, 3A. Would the state kick in any of that money? I didn't.
I will say
Isn't
we-
it nice to make you laugh in the morning?
I will say that we adopted a section of Massachusetts general law back in 2016 that allows us to collect a very small surcharge on traffic tickets issued by the state police.
Do they? I never saw a state cop issue a ticket in Tyngsborough.
You won't see it on like Westford Road, Middlesex Road, but any tickets they issue on Route 3 in
Okay.
Tyngsborough, we collect a very small surcharge.
So there are state cops in that little stretch between North Chelmsford and on Route 3? I never saw one.
Yes, I've seen I've seen a couple. I don't know how many tickets they give. We're not
We'll
collecting
we'll put
millions.
John out there because he's a good monitor of the state cops.
Well, when they graduate, did you know they each get a velvet pillow so they can sleep in their cruiser?
You're terrible.
I did know they each get a take-home cruiser. I knew that. I wasn't sure about the
Well, it
pillow.
comes with a velvet pillow.
Very good.
Yep.
Terrible.
And they don't even, now the union's looking for pillow covers from the state.
Well, that makes sense. The germs, you've got to protect the pillow, John.
Well,
Well, I don't mind bragging about the state police. They were the laziest group of people.
well, we don't really have to do much because there's the New Hampshire cops are always right up there at exit 1
We got about 5 minutes before
in
we
that
go to
cut
break.
through. They
Yes.
hang out there a
Here comes
lot.
Paul
So,
Belley.
Yes.
This
here comes
this
Paul
text-
Belley.
Text from
So-
the audience. Good morning. Home run, Mr. McDonough. When you have a hack with no experience, you end up with a city overrun with homeless, bad roads, and an empty downtown area. That's from Jim. Thank you.
Not talking about you.
We're talking about lovely Lowell, Massachusetts. Morning,
No.
Paul.
Yeah.
Just take a seat. We're going to go to break in a couple of minutes. Thank you.
So.
Make yourself
good
a coffee
morning,
if you
Paul.
want.
Always good to see you.
Good to see you.
Yeah. One of the best sax players around.
What's up, buddy?
How are you? Good to see you.
Good to see you.
So, anyway, so there's nothing else pressing that I can think. Let
No.
me just get some deadlines
Yes.
here on the trees and the vendors for the festival trees. Do you have any idea what the cutoff is?
I would imagine we're probably at capacity for vendors. We typically run out of space very quickly, but again, you can confirm that if you go to the town's website, tyngsborough.ma.gov. The first banner you'll see is a picture of Christmas trees and information about the festival of trees. I think you probably have another week to register a tree. Registering a tree, we have a little bit of room for flexibility, so you could do that a little later if possible. But I think vendor capacity, it's probably safe to assume we're
Well, I
at
assume
max.
now they have more people. I know originally they had a lot of the recreation department had a lot of trees because they were, filling in spots and stuff.
Yes.
So I imagine individual, mostly businesses, right?
Lots of businesses. We do, of course, have a very competitive municipal tree competition. Unfortunately, every year the DPW wins, so we will try to end that. But yeah, we have a lot of businesses and a
Well,
lot
you
of
put money on it
businesses-
and you want.
That might be questionable, but we'll look into it. No, they get a trophy, and Jimmy Hustins runs through Town
Oh,
Hall
yeah.
every year reminding people who has the trophy. But it's a lot of businesses, a lot of community groups, the youth baseball, softball teams, they all put
Speaking
one
of community groups, now what's happening with the building up off Westford Road?
120, the old rec
Just
building.
slide the mic to Colin, please.
Yeah,
The
Can't
old
we-
rec building.
yeah,
Nothing yet. The town still owns it.
okay.
One of the things that we have recently started, and on Monday night, I expect to advance a little further, is planning for, not constructing, but planning for eventually replacing our fire station and police station.
Yeah.
And I think in that order. That is a parcel the town owns that could potentially accommodate a new municipal building. So I don't know that there will be any changes to it. The rec department has moved out. We haven't used that for community groups just because of the condition of it. It's
Right.
largely been storage, and I think that's the way it will stay until we know for certain that it's not needed.
So now, where do the community groups, like the Boy Scout, Girl Scout, where do they meet now?
Some of them are still meeting at the schools.
Okay.
We recently, last year, adopted a policy that allows nonprofit community groups to meet. I think it's like $50 a year, you register, and then you get unlimited use of the Council on Aging after hours.
Okay, does AA still use because they used to be on Lakeview Avenue?
I believe they're meeting at the Evangelical Church,
Okay.
unless it's a different group, but I know that they have. a
They've
meeting over
we've
there.
always had one in town. I've been very pleased to see that. And I was just curious.
I think they
We're
still
break
make a good
shortly,
job.
but I'm just gonna put this text in there, and you guys still can't see it yet. Come on, baby, move over there. Okay. 30 to 40,000 for body cams is a small price to pay for accountability and transparency. The cameras don't lie.
Totally agree.
Yeah, and I guess we all agree that helps both sides. you know.
Absolutely.
So, and you're
We're
right.
gonna go off to break land,
Okay.
and we'll be back in a couple of
Alrighty.
minutes. And I gotta do a couple of things here to make that happen.
Mike's are dead,
No, I have to move
so I
to a
can't.
different camera. We're good to
that
go.
yourself.
We'll be back, thanks. You're on.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to City Life. I'm Linda Bown. I'm your host. I have my town manager, Colin Loiselle, and now I have Paul Belley.
Good morning,
Nice to
Linda.
see you.
Good morning.
Fabulous saxophone player.
Oh, thank you.
Now, you're here promoting.
Yes, well, last week we had our Christmas Castle breakfast for the Salvation Army, and that's our kickoff for the season of giving for the Salvation Army. So that was hugely successful. That was a lot of fun. We roasted Ray, come on, Real Estate Ray.
Oh, Booton.
Ray
Ray
Booton.
Booton, yeah.
Nice guy.
Yeah, no, we had
Everybody likes Ray.
Yeah, it was the best time. So anyway, that kicked up our season of giving, and so this Sunday, the next event to help out the Salvation Army is we have a big show at the Boathouse. It starts at 2:00, and the theme this year is the Legends of Boston. There it is. Thank you, John. So we have 6 bands, and they're all tribute bands.
Wow.
Yeah, I'll be performing with the Aerosmith band. We have a band, Boston, Jay Gal's band, The Cars, Godsmack, and Extreme. So each band's going to be performing for 45 minutes.
Now, is it gonna be live on WCAP at the same time?
No,
Okay.
no, we don't.
Understood.
No. Yep, no. The tickets are $20 at the door. We have great raffle prizes as well. So, so that's going to be great. And then the next event is the comedy show at the Four Oaks, that Mike Kunzler puts on.
Yeah.
And that's always usually successful as well.
Yeah.
And then we end up with the Salvation Army Radiothon.
Now, the boathouse, it's inside the boathouse?
Yes.
I don't know that I've ever been in the boathouse.
Well, it used to be Sandy's Lakeside way back in the day.
Oh, the boathouse. I was thinking the boathouse in Lowell. I was saying, I'm trying to think. Oh, sure, Sandy's.
It's a bar.
Yeah, I know.
We're showing our age.
Right, I can walk to it.
It's a gigantic bar. I've
Yes,
been there a
yes,
couple of
yes.
times. Oh my God, it rambles all over the place. And
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, no, we're showing our age when we have to identify it as Sandy's Lakeside, Linda.
Yes.
No, but Devin,
Again, I say it's
back
hard
in
to
the day,
teach old
yeah.
dogs new tricks.
yeah, but Devin Cordero, he's the owner. If you haven't been there, he just did a wonderful job with the place. It's the best sound system and lighting system in the area, as far as a performer's point of view.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have to bring your PA or nothing. You just show up.
Really?
Set up your instruments, and he's got a great sound engineer and a lighting engineer. So the bands, they're thrilled that they can just show up, plug in their guitars, and play. So, yeah, this all started with Devin, because remember when we were on Central Street, we were upstairs, the radio station, and then we had Cappy's Copper Kettle downstairs.
Well,
So-
upstairs was a real treat.
But I used to hold events downstairs at Cappy's. And, we brought in the World Series trophy.
Right.
Right after the World Series. We had Howie Carr down there. Our band, the Fundraisers, used to perform quite often down there. We had the Lieutenant Governor one year come up and join us on stage. She played tambourine. She wouldn't sing. She said, I'll play tambourine. And we had an Elvis impersonator down there. We had a guy to show up like Gene Simmons from Kiss. And that's one of my favorite pictures from the Radiothon, because him and Warren are standing side by side.
Oh, wow.
It's awesome. But so after we had to move from Central Street to the Market Street location, I had to go to Plan B. So I talked to Devin. He's a great musician in his own right. And I said, Devin, think we could do something here for the Radiothon, for the Salvation Army? And boom, he was on it. So
Now, did he buy it outright, or does AJ still own the boathouse?
who's that?
Does he own, are you talking about he owns?
He
the
doesn't
boat-
own the building.
Right, AJ still owns it.
Yeah, Sandy still owns it.
Yeah.
But, he just did it over. He'd like to buy it, but she's holding on to it,
Yeah, oh, yeah. They've done a lot. I have
let's
not,
not get into inside negotiations. We'll just move on.
I'm just curious, it's so local to me.
Yeah.
That, I'll have to go down and see it.
Yeah.
I'll definitely come down on that.
Oh, good.
What are the, it's November 7th,
No, November
17th,
17th.
brother.
Yep, 2:00.
2:00.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, $20 at the door. And,
Awesome.
it's going to be a great event. All great musicians. Speaking of great human beings, right here. Good morning, Rodney.
How's it going? Good to see you.
We're on live.
Thank you for coming
But that's
back.
local access. We're good. We can't get you over that.
Well, Representative Rodney Elliott has just stepped in.
Good morning.
I have a great group here, so. He was just talking about the fundraisers for the Salvation Army.
Oh, it's this Sunday?
Yes, this Sunday.
Boathouse, yeah.
Yeah, at the boat.
Come into my neighborhood now,
Okay.
so everybody behave. And don't disturb the swans.
Oh, did you see
Tough
those?
life.
They're beautiful, huh?
Aren't they gorgeous?
The younger ones are just starting to turn all white.
Yes.
Yeah, that's great to
I was
see. There's
talking
like
about it.
7 of them now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's try to keep it.
Yeah.
It's a subject for me. Anyway, they'll be fine. They're going to be safe. So,
Good.
and what else now? You have that, and
We have the comedy show that Mike Kunzel is going to put on at the Four Oaks, I think the week after. And then, of course, the Radiothon, which Representative Elliott supports. He's always there.
It's been a lot of years, yeah.
Yeah, sure has.
It's come a long way. You probably still miss the days when you were playing outside Cappy's. And
we were
all
just
do,
talking. He was
but-
just talking about that.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun downstairs.
Yeah.
But, Yeah, no, so we had to go to, I was telling Linda, we had to go to Plan B, to do the entertainment part of it, out at the boat, and Devin has
Well,
been
that's
great.
kind of nice to bring the communities in. Tyngsborough and Drake-it, it's in Drake-it, but it's a big spot for Tyngsborough people, I know that. It's the lake. It's always been popular.
Yep.
So I'm glad to see a good crowd there.
Yeah,
I'm interested in the sound thing because it didn't used to be that good, so.
Yeah, no, like I was saying, he's got two great engineers there, lighting and sound engineers, and like I said, Devin spent a lot of money in equipment there, and there's also a kitchen in there now. Yeah.
There was years ago,
Yeah.
because Sandy's mother used to cook there, particularly St. Patrick's Day. There was always a big St. Patrick's Day dinner
Yep.
there, so that's good to know the kitchen is there as well.
Yeah.
So Rodney, what's new? What are you guys up to down in Boston? How do you feel about being audited?
I'm fine with it. I mean, it's taxpayer money, so
Yeah.
whatever is being spent, we should be transparent with it. So
Well, you're a numbers guy,
that's
so
fine.
you're-
That's,
yeah.
it makes all the sense in the world. I mean, there is an audit that's done anyway, a performance audit, if you will, and I think Auditor DeZoglio wants to get a little bit more specific, which that's fine with me. I don't have any problem with it. What's new? We are actually going to be in session tomorrow. One of very uncharacteristic for the legislature in the second year of a session. Joint rules of both the Senate and the House require that any session is informal, essentially because of the election. And to me, the thought behind it, or the theory, is that, similar to, local municipalities, you can't create any new positions 90 days before the election. And something similar, July 31st is the last day of the formal session, which is why we went 23 hours. I hope we can do business a little bit more balanced rather than the last night. I don't think that's going to change, but that's okay. So we're going to be in formal session tomorrow, as I understand it, to take up the economic development bond bill. It's a $4 billion bond bill. creates a lot of jobs, a lot of funding for life sciences with robotic surgery and neuropathy, and sort of the funding that we need here in what I think is becoming the brain belt, Massachusetts and that area, because of all of our higher education institutions. So, that's a good thing. I think we've all been clamoring for it since it wasn't passed. Excuse me, in July. A lot of local projects, at least for my district. There's $500,000 for Raleigh's Farm. Pawtucket Farm now, excuse me. There's money for, I also have Chelmsford, so Vinyl Square. I'm trying to think, geez, it just came out yesterday. $250,000 for Centerville. There's actually $50,000 for feasibility study for a boathouse, the Merrimack River Boathouse.
Okay,
Yeah, I mean, again, this is all authorization, so, we've got to get it into the bond bill. Into either the operating or the capital plan. But, when I was on the council, that was something that we talked about. And I know the Merrimack River Boating Association, they've outgrown the space at the Bellegarde Boathouse. It's become a very popular sport. Paul knows, almost any given weekend, a third weekend in Pawtuckaville along the river, there's a rowing regatta, whether it's high school, whether it's high school championships, collegiate.
the colleges love the Merrimack.
Well, they like the Merrimack River because, as far as I know, the current and the layout. You can recall when Boston was in the mix for trying to get the Olympics, they were going to have the rowing championships up in this particular span. So, a lot of good stuff in that economic development bond bill. We'll be in session tomorrow it requires a roll call because it's a funding. It's a funding vote. So, that's good. That's good
Now,
stuff.
new reps aren't involved. They are sworn in January.
Correct.
So You still have.
So we have some neighbors in Pawtuckaville that they want a pickleball court at Father McGuire's.
I think that's a great idea. I think, I think tennis courts across the country would be converting, or at least,
Absolutely.
not permanently converted, because the pickleball nets are a little bit different size and the courts are a little bit different size, but, like football fields, they can be be striped for many purposes, and
Soccer and,
I think it makes, soccer, exactly, lacrosse, makes all the sense in the world to bring, they're usually rollaway nets that you bring in, and, but it's a popular sport, it's a growing sport, it's not just for,
Oh, it's huge.
not just for older folks, as it once was, I think, down in Florida or the warmer climate. Young kids are doing it, middle-aged folks. I haven't tried it yet, my wife wants to. She bought a pickleball set, so, but, some of the challenges, they're full. Or they're used quite frequently, so you got to kind of find a time. But I think that makes sense.
Well, I've heard, I have friends, I'm not into it myself, but they say it's a very, you go in, you like up at the Y in New Hampshire, you just go in, you meet different people, and it's quick.
Right.
It's not as long as like a tennis game, it's a quick set, so. It's good for them, and you come and you go, and you don't spend as much time as you want.
Yeah,
so.
spend as much time as you want. Exactly. So.
Yeah, we have a sign, an electronic sign in the center of Tyngsborough, so we all have to
Sign.
move.
I did just see that sign. I go through Tyngsborough an awful lot
Yeah.
because I'm literally on the border. So that's it's a nice location.
It is, I said it's
That
not
area has
obtrusive,
come,
it's
it's come a
very,
long way since the old Surefine.
yeah.
Mark, was it Surefine?
Yeah,
That
3
market
pounds
that
for
was
a
there,
dollar,
yeah,
and
yeah.
chicken.
But was it last week or maybe the week before? I was happy to be traveling through, and there was a wedding that had just taken place. So it
Yeah.
really has become nice. There are 2 nice bridges and
Yes.
Yep.
tree lighting. I think that's a great sign for folks coming over the river or cutting through, because it's
Yeah.
It's very noticeable.
I was overwhelmed at first, but
She loves it now.
I do actually.
no, you need it big because if you make
Well, I was expecting something flashing horrible, and it's,
The
Well done.
The VFW post came out beautiful.
yeah.
yes.
I went to the grand opening. Boy,
Yes,
they
I
did a
saw
nice
you,
job on
yeah.
it.
Yeah, it's big,
Yeah.
very big, it's,
Yeah.
so.
And it's a very exciting group
Yeah,
that's
again, new
involved
people.
running it right now. Yeah.
A lot of new people, younger. It's and they have to do that because the one in Chelmsford's very successful, and they have a younger group, more Afghanistan vets
Right.
than. So they're starting to come in.
Good.
And sons and that type of thing. So you're seeing that in Tyngsborough. So that's you hate to see these facilities not used.
Well, I mean, some of the posts are totally closed, like
Right.
the one on Plain Street, the one on Westford Street closed. The young veterans were not, supporting those posts, but.
And I think that's why you saw a lot of PTSD, because if you think back to World War I, World War II particularly, they were able a place to talk to each other.
Yes.
And as they got away from that, we can't understand what they've been through. We really can't empathize. We've never been in a war like that. So they need to be able to talk to each other. And I think that was missing, and I don't think it was pushed enough. And I think the government didn't push the VA enough and the improvements. So I think I'm very pleased to see it for the younger vets. They do need it to deal with each other and be able to talk to somebody that understands what they're talking about. So, anyway. So, that's good. Lots of stuff happening for your district.
Yeah, I think, a lot of things, and I know there's some other things in there. There's money for the Boys and Girls Club for their expansion, money for the Lowell Community Health Center. I know Senator Kennedy has a number of things in there for his district too. So it literally just came out last night, and I was at a meeting in Chelmsford, so I didn't get a chance to go through the whole thing. But, again, it's bond money that has to be appropriated, but at least when it's authorized, there is that path to get that appropriated versus just, kind of throwing in an amendment that may or may not.
I got two texts here. First, did Rodney see the council last night? And what is his response, the new ordinance on the homeless? And then page 2 we have, good morning, can you ask State Rep Elliott about the proposed $6 million for LaLasha Park is at the State House? Us that want minor league baseball back to Lowell are anxious, waiting for those funds. Thank you, have a great day. So if you could speak to either of those, Rodney, that'd be great.
Yeah, sure. So I did not see the council meeting last night. As you know, I represent Chelmsford, parts of Chelmsford as well, and there is a Vinyl Square Strategic Planning Committee, which is very active in the revitalization of Vinyl Square.
Oh, yeah.
And I did get money for Vinyl Square in this bond bill, too. So I didn't see the council meeting last night, but I do understand the ordinance. Brockton, the city of Brockton approved the same ordinance or a similar measure last night, so,
They went one step further, I think, Brockton.
well,
No panhandling.
yeah, I'm not sure the particulars of that, but, yeah, I think the city council has spent and the city manager spent an inordinate amount of time, and we have, and prior city council, we have as well, and you get to the point where, there's plenty of support that's being provided that homeless people can access. But you have to continue to take measures. So I support the ordinance anyway. I mean, I don't mix words. Is it the solution? There is no easy solution. If there was an easy solution to this problem, whether it's in Lowell, Massachusetts, Brockton, Los Angeles, or anywhere throughout the country, we would have solved it. I was at the council meeting 2 weeks ago regarding homeless at the Lowell Housing Authority, and because of we've never had the level of problems that we've had at the Housing Authority, particularly at Bishop Markham. There are 9 complexes at Bishop Markham. There are 35 cameras. We watch, we monitor. We work with the city. We asked for and I have my commission I have for the Lowell Housing. Pardon me, Lowell Housing Authority on now. There is a substation, a police substation, right in Bishop Markham now because of the magnitude.
You're good.
Okay,
I'm
you
gonna fix
should-
this, because give me a little static. Just pay no attention, you're good.
Okay. Pay no attention.
I warned you.
He walks up and moves my way. Pay no attention to me. And anyway, now I've lost my whole thought. Anyway, at Bishop Markham, we continue to take measures to provide a police presence to ensure the safety of residents. There is a challenge that we have with residents letting homeless in. However, there are also a number of homeless people that have broken into these complexes. We have replaced 6 steel doors within the last
Oh,
4
my
to 6
God.
weeks. They're breaking steel doors. They broke into the police substation a week and two
With
weekends
people in it?
ago. There was nobody in it, and that's one request that we had. The Housing Authority does pay about $112,000 for police presence, and that individual has now been, as far as I know, relocated to the police precinct. There's also a precinct at the Mercier Center in the Acre. Years ago, there was, the gang unit was there, five-person gang unit, pardon me, because of the problems we had in North Common. So since that time, and I believe there will be, the chief did indicate, or the deputy chief was there at the council meeting last week, that they're going to provide more rolling sweeps. We've asked to close the gates at Bishop Markham to prevent, sort of more folks coming in from both sides. It's a cut-through from South Common to Jay's. And we don't dispute the fire department said, look, that's a public safety issue, we need that gate, so those gates open. So, they have broken key card. I got a call from someone said, why don't you, key cards, you have to use key cards. We do have them. Every complex has them. You need a key card to get in, but they break those. So between, the damages, as well as, there are residents that let them come in.
Yeah.
They open the door and they let them in.
Wow.
How did we change the name from Bishop Markham to South Common Village? Can you speak to that? And if you can't know everything.
I'm not Google, but I'll do my best. That was done prior to me being sworn in as a member of the board. I don't understand why. It was the prior executive director and the prior boards that made that change. Maybe at my generation, I don't even know the new names. I know them as Bishop Markham. I know them as Father Norton.
I didn't even know it was a different name.
They did try to, they rebranded them, apparently, and I know it as Ashenbow Towers, not City View.
Oh, really?
That's just,
That's
that's just the way that I am.
I think it was the last thing Gary Wallace did. Backing up the bus, Rodney, to this question.
Sure,
Can
the
you
6
speak to the
million
Elisha ballpark?
Yeah, so 6 million for the Lasher Ballpark. There's 6 million that has been put into the closeout supplemental. We do supplemental bills occasionally at the legislature. We adopt the budget, and then when there are deficits, we do a supplemental bill to fill those gaps. The legislature does one final closeout bill to close any gaps that may remain, typically with revenue from, let's say, the stabilization fund. And $6 million was, it was put into the prior supplemental, and then it's put into this, the closeout, we'll say it the closeout supplemental. $6 million is in there. We have not taken it up. It is in conference committee. I'm hopeful. I've been in touch with the Speaker's office. We're hopeful that it's going to survive conference, because that facility needs, in order to attract a minor league baseball team, it needs to be renovated, it needs to be improved. Now, it's, in order to get sort of a higher level of minor league baseball, it requires much more of an investment. The university, when the city transferred it to the university, they put about $3.5 million to make it compliant, NCAA compliant. So it is functional. You can only seat about 200 right now. It's not ADA compliant. There needs to be some, structural issues that needs to be addressed. I'm going to say I think the ballpark is coming on 30 years. And to me, I don't think there's been enough maintenance. And
But UMass owns the thing, all right?
UMass Lowell owns it now, yes.
And are there
So-
any other facilities that they can't keep up? Because I think UMass Lowell should pay for it, but that's okay. This is the next issue from Ralph Hogan. He says, John, any funds in the bond bill for Old Kendall Road in Tyngsborough? Only diesel four-wheel drive trucks can traverse that public way. So Colin, maybe you want to talk to them about this?
Yeah, I can say there's definitely not any funds in the bond bill for this. I'm not familiar with, I don't know where this lies on our 5 and 10-year road capital plan, but if anybody wanted to know where their road is, they can reach out to our DPW, and we can provide a 5 and 10-year capital plan. I don't have an answer that will make everybody happy on roads. Nobody ever does. We, for years, focused our road money, which, we relied heavily just on Chapter 90 funding until probably 4 or 5 years ago. We started investing from the operating budget close to $300,000, and then we dedicated 75% of the excise tax we collect from cannabis businesses to roads. And so we stopped focusing just on the failed roads, because then you never maintain roads. And so now we have a very complicated formula that addresses roads that are in moderate condition to keep them in good condition, and every year we chip away at these failed roads. So Old Kendall Road certainly is a road that's in poor condition. It is, as far as the formula is concerned, it's a smaller road that reaches a far fewer number of houses. So that does tweak where it falls in the formula, but the best answer I can give is that anybody at any time can check the status of their roadway, and when we have plans to fully repave it by contacting our DPW, we have a very comprehensive software that tracks the road condition, and it formulates. There are also things our DPW can do in the interim, if the road is not passable, to make it passable until it's repaired.
Well, now, I know enough about Tyngsborough just to be dangerous, okay? And I see developments happening out there all the time. Do the contractor, do the developers, are they supposed to put the road in? And is this part of Kendall Road, is this a town road, or does this still belong to the contractors? I don't know.
You know where Old Kendall Road is?
No.
It's okay. It's a tiny little road. I'm curious why he wants to have these trucks. It's a cut-through road.
Yeah, I assume Ralph is correct that it is a public roadway. I think that you needed to access the cemetery that's over there.
Yeah. I don't know where he's going with that.
But
The
I will
road I'm
say,
talking, the road, but continue, Colin. sorry.
but to your point about this is a really good point because up until probably the early 2000s, our planning board was not as strict as I think it should have been when we accepted roadways. So a developer would go to the planning board, they would put in a road that was subpar at best, certainly wasn't designed to last 15 or 20 years.
Gotcha.
And then the town would just accept the road. The minute you accept it, now you become responsible for
problem,
the
yeah.
maintenance. We have a much, and this doesn't help situations like Old Kendall Road, so I'm not trying to say that it will. We have a much more stringent process now where we hold a bond for, I think it's up to 5 years after the road is accepted. The road has to be developed to our standards. That never happened before, so there were a lot of roads like Old Kendall. A really good example that we took care of last year was Danforth Road, which nobody knows where it is. You got to go through Dunstable
Yeah,
to
you
get
can't
to
get
it.
there from here.
And so there are roads that were never designed correctly. They were never installed correctly, and so they faded away very quickly. And we, for a long time, neglected or relied only on limited state funding to do that. We've now made much more conscientious investments in the roads, so we are getting to these failed roads. Obviously, though, until the road you live on
The
is
example I want to read, behind the American Legion, okay?
Yeah.
I took my drone up there, and there's a beautiful development on top of a hill. It really looks fabulous. But did you guys already inspect that road being put in there? Because eventually you're going to have to accept it. I don't know whether you have or not, but what's the process for inspecting the road before it's put in?
It's very rigorous. I want to say that I think you're referring to the Enclave development, though, which is going to stay private in perpetuity, so we'll never accept that road.
Oh, okay.
The condo association, and we have a few of those developments in town where the condo association's responsible. On a public road, though, you present typically the process, you present your plans to the planning board, you go through, you build the subdivision, you have to submit as-built plans, our engineering department, and the planning board's peer review. So you've got 2 engineers representing the town. They conduct a full assessment of the road to make sure that it meets not just the town standards, but MassDOT standards, because the state won't let you accept the roads unless it meets certain standards as well. Hypothetically speaking, the more roads you accept, technically the formula for Chapter 90 funding, you get a little bit more money, but now you're also responsible for more miles, so it's not really a huge benefit. But we would not accept a road that wasn't designed to both our standards and MassDOT. And there are multiple inspections. We look at the drainage because that's a big problem. It's very comprehensive nowadays.
Huge improvement. We had a real problem before.
Yeah.
Planning board would release the bond, and then
Oh, yeah.
it would be just a disaster. It was just a
Next up,
nightmare.
Paul Belley. Paul, can you back up the truck and tell us all about, because I asked you to stay till 7:30. At 7:30, could you
Yep.
tell the audience what we're looking at on the screen? And
All right, I'll do it real quick. So
No, take
this-
your time. Thanks for coming in, thanks for doing this.
So Sunday, this coming Sunday, the 17th, starting at 2 p.m., $20 at the door. We have a big show to benefit the Salvation Army. It's called The Legends of Boston. We'll have tribute bands doing Aerosmith, Boston, Jay Giles, The Cars, Godsmack, and Extreme. So all these musicians are all donating their time and their talents for the Salvation Army. And Devin Cordero is putting on a great show for us. So please, also we're going to have great raffle items as well. So please support the Salvation Army and come out and see this great show. Thank you.
Well, I'm glad you were on, because I wouldn't have known about it.
Well,
And
Paul, you're welcome. We'd love you to stay, talk politics. If you're in the mood, if you've got a skedaddle, we respect
Well, I haven't had my coffee yet, and it's a little bit too early for politics, so.
Okay, cool.
You're in the wrong place at the wrong time.
I've never known you not to want to talk politics.
But I get in a lot of trouble.
Paul, thank you.
That's what I like about you.
Cadillac of a guy, Paul. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Thank
Good
you.
to see you,
And-
Linda.
and-
Good to see you.
Definitely,
my
everybody
friend.
support the
All right.
Salvation Army. It's a great organization.
Yep.
And I know the Giles Band is always doing fundraisers, so everybody that can support one of their events,
Rodney,
or
if you
all
can
of
scoot
them.
over one towards Colin, I'll tighten up the shot.
Okay.
Paul,
So,
thank you.
thank
You know, on
for
Paul's
your-
exit, there's no end to his his volunteer
Oh,
contributions.
my God.
They've already volunteered and committed to the St. Patrick's Day breakfast again. So-
Did he hear
No, they
that?
have. No, he knows.
They're in the books.
Yep, they're in the book, so
Yeah.
thanks again for everything him and the fundraisers do.
I want to go back to the ordinance and the homeless, and it's a problem, but particularly, and you have a horrible situation with the governor that's not going to support anything, so she's going to tie your hands on no matter what you try to do. But
Well, let me just say the state of Massachusetts, and that was what I was trying to get to when I was talking about the housing authority. The state spends close to $1.2 billion in a myriad of programs for the homeless. And, this year, we, in addition to the billion we spent for, the immigrants that have come into the state. And so there are resources that the agencies get through the state. I mean, it's a lot of money. We'll maintain that commitment, but some of it's just not sustainable. We don't have an extra billion, in the future, for the immigrants that have come in. We just don't. Those were used from, I guess you could say reserve, but from the stabilization fund. And, we appropriate about $500 million, but the costs have just got to be contained, and we can only do so much. And, that's a challenge that we're going to face this fiscal year, because the economy is doing well, but it's still, we still have some challenges ahead. It's not, we're not completely out of this recession. Inflation still is starting to come down, and I'm not trying to get into a real discussion about the economy, but we have to be prudent. And luckily, we get an additional billion we talked about roads and education. Those funds are really supplanting some of the costs that we need to address when it comes to public transportation and education. So I say luckily, because if we didn't, then, and it's a $58 billion budget at the state level. We do a lot, but there's always more. And I'm glad to see the public transportation money. Clearly for the MBTA, less people are taking the MBTA, and, the commuter rail and the T, because it's in such deplorable condition. My hope, and everyone's hope, is that it's going to be a better system. People will be driving less, but still, our roads and bridges have been, I'd say, neglected for far too long. And if there's one chief complaint that I've heard as an elected official for the last 26 years, is make the roads better. I mean, even in Lowell, Colin talks, rightfully so. We have so many roads that we can't use chapter money for because they've never been accepted, and they don't meet the standards. So it's a double-edged sword. You can't spend chapter 90 money, which is the bulk of the money that the state appropriates, to fix the roads that need to be fixed. I remember Topman Road. It's a long, windy road, dangerous, no sidewalks. We couldn't spend state money because it wasn't in compliance. So, but yeah, those are the challenges that we face, and I think this council and this administration is doing as much as they can. The state's doing as much as they can. I sit on Project Compass, and I'll stop. It's a homeless shelter for women. They don't expect, and it's in Chelmsford. They have a location, one in Chelmsford, and then they have another one in Lowell, and we're trying to help the homeless problem in the city, in Lowell, and it's it's youth, and it's they really help women, to be honest with you, and it's a great organization. So there are plenty of organizations out there. Yeah, the Transitional Living Center, yes, it needs help. Women and children shouldn't be in that place.
Absolutely.
So I think that's, Project Compass fills that gap, but it's a challenge. It's not Lowell, Massachusetts. There is a concern, and people do speculate that people come to Lowell because of the social service agencies, but we can't have people, camping on on public property. I mean, we need to continue to sort of, not force them, but encourage them through whatever ways we can, with all the funding and all of the opportunities we have, to get into shelter, get into a program, getting into something to get their life back on track.
Unfortunately, they come because of the social services, but then they don't utilize the social services.
Yeah.
So it's kind of bizarre. But obviously, I'm not happy with the governor saying she's not going to, as you mentioned, the immigrants that came, that she's not going to support ICE. She's not going to have the state police to deal with that at all. That's unfortunate for you as a legislator. It's unfortunate for the council, and so she drops it in your lap, and I'm not helping you. The state's not going to help you. You handle it. But it was the state that closed the mental facilities, and
Rightfully so. They were terrible.
but
They
why
were
not
terrible.
fix them, John? Couldn't we just think ahead? All right,
The
these
solution
facilities
is
are
this.
bad.
The solution is this. In lovely Lowell, Massachusetts, the solution is simply this, okay? You talk to Tufts. That's the new Lowell General.
Yeah.
And you tell Lowell, okay, Lowell General, Tufts, you have this facility over on Stackpole Street. It's the nurses' residence. Convert that to the homeless shelter. You force that you got to get a Lori Trahan and Elizabeth Warren
fuck that.
and say, you know what? You have to restrict these people's rights. Take away their rights. They have the right to say no.
That's,
I get arrested for drunk driving. I tell the cop, you're not allowed to arrest me. And the cop can't arrest me. I have no rights. So we need to change the laws to make this happen. And they got to corral all these federal people, Washington people, whether it's a Zoom meeting or whatever, okay? But Elizabeth Warren has got to change the regulation so people can lose their rights for a limited time. And you lose your rights automatically for 60 days. We put you in a facility. And you're going to have I would hypothetically say, an overseeing board that you have to prove, I'm okay, you can let me live on my own again. This business of giving everybody an EBT card and a mass health card, the ambulance doesn't care. They're getting $1,200 just for doing this. Give me your EBT card, $1,200 just to say hello. This has got to stop. This EBT card where I'm going to give you my EBT card. When they get arrested, some have 2 and 3 EBT cards on them, and they all work. So we have to stop subsidizing this stuff. But at any rate, I want to just, if you want to back, go ahead, but I got some texts.
all right, go ahead.
So, good morning to all. Rep. Elliott, doing great. Keep doing the great work you do. Moving right along here.
All right,
I'm
thank
pretty
you.
sure most of the road money went to the newcomers. Okay. November 14th at 1 p.m. Lowell Senior Center meeting to discuss Lowell's, bring your electric bill. I got a phone call yesterday about electric bills in lovely Lowell, Massachusetts. And a lot of people are on auto pay. So if you have an apartment building that has 6 units, some glitch happened and they're charging you for trash pickup and they're not picking up your trash. You have an outside vendor. So take a good look at your bill. And if you have a building that has 6 units, 5 units, and you have private trash pickup, check the bill. The city may have, through a glitch, been charging you for trash pickup. So this is a good point that this person brought up. So Senior Center, they're going to talk about Lowell's Community Choice Power Supply Program. Bring your electric bill, and that's from Lynn Daly. We need to build or renovate the facility for the mentally ill, drug, and alcohol addicted. We need a long-term programs. Tewksbury State Hospital, all Concord Prison. That's from Carla Miller. And I think that's it. Back to you guys. Thanks.
Granted, the facilities were horrible, but, and it's my problem, let's shut them down. Why not fix them? Because what they did is, we'll shut them down and put them out in the street.
Linda,
That makes no
name one
sense, John.
God bless you, but name one department in Massachusetts that pushes excellence out the door. We'll all wait.
DCR. I
Who's
used to work for
DCR?
DCR,
Who's DCR?
Department of Conservation and
Okay,
Recreation.
so what are they
Conservation's
doing?
always efficient.
What are they doing on Saturday, Sunday, and Monday?
Probably doing site visits.
They're not around.
Who's that?
Well, these-
DCR.
Sure they are. There's staff, up at the boathouse 7 days a week. Not the boathouse, the beach house, yeah.
Okay, well, let's go over to the T.
So how can that happen? But
So,
if they
look, can I
do
just
it, why
jump in
don't
on the
other-
mental health institutions? They were shut down because they were not run properly, that's
Yeah.
correct. You know, the state at that time moved to a model of having private organizations provide mental health services. That didn't seem to solve the problem. The state now, after the adoption of the Access to Better Care Act, have adopted a number of the reasons, and unfortunately, we had to see the sort of the massive effects when COVID and the status of the mental health, let's say population, if you will. And, since that time, we have organizations like VinFen. The long-term, let's say incarceration or people that are going to be put into a mental health institute, it doesn't work. But VinFen has been working with Lowell General Hospital, the emergency department, because what police officers have to do is they unless they want to section them, there's very little. The emergency departments, they hold these patients for 24 hours, and then they're allowed to, or they're required, quite frankly, to release them. I know that the former governor was trying to increase that time frame to 72 hours, but that didn't work. So what VinFen did, right next to in the existing Sullivan Mental Health, they put an enormous amount of money to improve part of the hospital, and there's still an opportunity to expand, to create 21 beds. 14 of them are for young adults. 7 of them are for adults, but they're not long-term stay. They're there for 24, 48, 72 hours. They triage them. They give them the proper mental health, behavioral health services that they need. It's not just lumped into, you're going to a state hospital, you're going to be put in a ward, and we'll try to figure it out. And I don't know, I think that's a better model than just putting people into institutions, because we could never build enough institutions, and sometimes people don't always need that. I'm not a mental health expert, but what I do know is that the state is trying. There's been a significant shortage of psychologists and psychiatrists. So part of that bill was to allow for interim licensure to, even today, I mean, we still get calls saying, can you help me find a psychiatrist or psychologist or somebody? There's also clinicians in our schools, because they're frontline, and they tend to see some of the behavioral issues that young kids have. So I think there's a pretty comprehensive effort going on. It'll take some time. Just like the opioid crisis, I was the mayor 10 years ago when we started the opioid task force. That still exists today. Getting stakeholders, getting those people that are doing the work to talk, and I think that we've made some progress, but that crisis was taking, 10 years the doctors were pushing painkillers and pills. So it's a long road back. It's not easy, and there are always going to be, there are people in the population that, regardless of the painkillers and, the prescription over drug use, it's going to be, it's a challenge, and I still think we're reeling from the effects from a long time ago. But it's not as if, the state or the city, no one's being negligent. There's lots of compassion for the homeless, but, we also have to protect the rights and find that balance of, helping homeless, help people with mental health, and protecting the, people that have concern, businesses. There was the front page story in the paper today where teens were assaulted at the Owl Diner. That should not happen. That just should not happen. There were a swim team coming to have breakfast at the Owl Diner, and they were accosted by a couple in their cars. So, if you asked me what I would have done on that ordinance last night, I would have voted for it, without a doubt.
Okay, this comment comes up. Why not use the money to build a new shelter instead of renovating the ball field?
Yeah, so I can say that we've had, this conversation is not new. I think I know I've spoken to the city manager and members of the city council. That shelter there needs to be a new shelter. And I know a number of years ago, the Smock Southern, oh boy, I'm gonna mess this up. Southern Middlesex, I can't remember what SMOC stands for, but they're the organization that runs the shelter. And I know they put some money into it, but there's got to be there should be a new shelter. I don't know where it is, I don't know how big it is, but that shelter is in the kitchen area, and I think they try to do their best, but it's not a good place.
It's definitely outdated,
So-
no question about it. It has been for a long time. And I don't know if they still run a health clinic out of it, but they did at one time.
And I know the administration is looking at the city administration. I know that I have conversations with the city manager. I don't think anyone disagrees that there needs to be a new shelter, but again, where and how much space, that's a long conversation, but at least there is a conversation, and, getting a plan and trying to identify a location and funding and all those things is, regrettably, it's complicated, but
Oh, it's
I
very,
understand the individual's point if homelessness is a priority, which it is. Again, we try to balance economic development and all the other services, and it's not always easy.
Well, how are you doing with forest fires out your way? You got a lot of greenery out there. Any problems with the
We've only had a few.
dry brush?
Only had a few minor ones. Certainly, we've been helping a lot on the North Shore. We have a tanker truck that's in high demand these days. But we've been very fortunate to have just a few very minor ones. Nothing substantial.
Thank you.
yeah. We discussed that last night, and we are on alert.
Yes.
Well, the governor said no matches, no sparks, no nothing.
Oh, yeah, don't even
Good
talk
idea.
to me about the governor. Oh, I'm so annoyed with her.
It's amazing that this part of the country is in a drought. It's just,
I know, and it went very quickly.
Yeah.
Because I remember we were talking conservation just a couple of months ago, and we weren't even close to the mark, and it was like magic. All of a sudden, here we
Stuck
are.
right up.
And so we definitely have a drought thing. But I feel bad for the council, and because obviously we're all very upset about the homeless and the immigration, and yet they're not helping you. I mean, the police, God bless them,
yeah, so,
they can't do anything.
I've taken the opportunity to go on two things. I know there was a motion on the agenda, the manager mentioned to me about Tewksbury State Hospital. 4 months ago, I went, when the nurses were striking, where there were some safety concerns with SEIU staff, I went and met with the executive director, and I went through the facility, and one of the doctors there invited me to come and meet, and I reached out, and we did. The challenge with Tewksbury State and why ambulances are called and why the police are concerned, and there have been people that have walked off campus, and that should be a concern to Tewksbury State Hospital, and even the executive director. They're receiving patients from the courts that perhaps don't belong there, but the jails are full, and Tewksbury State Hospital is full. I know they want the city council will ask the delegation to have a conversation. There's 900 acres out there. There's a lot of space, and there's also a lot of state agencies that are out there. So, that's something that'll have to be worked out with Tewksbury State Hospital. But, the executive director, they've implemented security measures. There's a new police chief in Tewksbury. They want the place locked down, and they want the
Yeah.
residents to be safe. So I think, I think that conversation needs to take place, and I know Carla Miller and myself had a conversation about it. There certainly needs to be more mental health services, whether that's facilities or not, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think that needs to be brought to the governor and the legislature to take a look at it, because we have resources. How do we best deploy them?
Well, if the police aren't allowed to keep people in, so they're closing the prisons, you have to look at Concord, you have to look at places like that as potentials.
The key is don't let the governor sell that property.
Don't let the governor out of it, don't let her
Well, I know
talk.
there was, just so you know, there was $250,000 appropriated for Concord State, or MCI Concord, to do an assessment and evaluation what the state should be using that property for. I know there was a president, was it MCI, Walpole, there was a prison, I think down in Norfolk, that was opened up for an emergency shelter.
Yes.
And I have taken an opportunity to, the delegation was invited to go to the Union Conference Center where there are 600, that time there was about 608 families. And by the way, they're not all immigrants. There are homeless people that are citizens as well.
Because that's what it was supposed to be
And
for
their
all,
mothers.
yes.
But it seemed to be, our observations, it was being run well. Families are, there's English being taught there. They're trying to, get jobs, and there's some kids in the school system. So, the community is providing that support, and the city's providing the support. And, those folks would like to move out, I'm sure. But there's only so much we can do. And it's going to come down to me, and the governor has made it clear that, there's got to be a limitation on the state. We're on the second year of that lease, or does it start in January? Excuse me, starts in January. So we have to keep our eye on that. And, that's the only hotel we have downtown, and it was a 2-year lease.
Yep.
So, we have to, I would like to see it revert back to a hotel.
Well, I think most people would.
Right.
I just would like to see a better commitment. It's a national problem, and the governor is on,
I got 2 texts here. Unfortunately, no one wants a homeless shelter in their backyard. The town of Concord has a place that could be renovated. Let's not refer to it as the prison. The people might feel better about using it. Moving on to the next text. The city council complained about other people from other areas coming to Lowell, and they want to do the same thing, move them to Tewksbury. Good point. Thank you.
yeah, well, that's sort of what it is, So, I
Well, I don't want to move them, I want them rehabilitated.
Yes,
And to
I
have
think-
the state take over the homeless thing, the state doesn't know what they're doing. They can't even run the goddamn railroad, okay? I mean, it's not, these things stay on tracks, they go no place else, the state can't do it right, okay? They run into each other because we keep hiring our friends. This is outsource it. You talk to Tufts, they got a big facility in lovely Lowell, Massachusetts, and have them take over. They're professionals. Why not have them do it? It's going to cost the same with no pensions.
have them do what?
Take
Run,
over mental illness. Send the mentally ill to Tufts. Let Tufts rehabilitate
General
them.
Hospital we're going to
Yeah.
send them? They're going to take over the hospital?
No, they could use St. John's Nursing Building on Stackpole Street.
Oh, okay. I don't think the university is,
No,
isn't it?
They're all on Mass Health. So it's a real easy thing. They're all on Mass Health. You send them to a facility. It's getting paid for out of their gold card, the Mass Health card.
You can't send them, though, there we go.
Now you got to drag Elizabeth Warren into the thing to restrict their rights for 60 days
She's
at a
up
time.
there with the governor that says,
Colin,
don't you deal, we're not going to deal with the
I want to hear what
ICO.
Colin has to say. Colin's been thinking about this for a while. What do you think?
No, I mean, I think these are, they're regional challenges, right? You see them more in Lowell because of the population, the availability of social services.
Because they get sent here.
One thing I will say, and I have been a critic of state government when necessary, but a few years ago the state launched the Public Health Excellence Grant, which was a program designed to create regional approaches to public health issues, including mental health. Places like Tyngsborough, we don't have, people call from time to time, we don't have social workers. Our staff is so small we can't afford one. But through the Public Health Excellence Grant, we've been able to partner with Chelmsford, Billerica, Tewksbury, and now we have resources that can help, certainly not enough. But I think that when we start thinking about these issues as regional issues, we can make, and I think it does involve bringing the state in and the state making a concerted effort, but we can't expect individual municipalities to bear the burden of a regional crisis.
Rodney, thoughts?
Good.
I think I gave you all my thoughts.
Okay, thanks.
I think it's a monumental problem that is not being ignored by any stretch. You look at the resources that we
of course.
dedicate to it, and it's significant. Unfortunately, I was going to Boston Medical kind of frequently about a month ago, and not for myself. And Mass and Cass is a place where there was, something similar of a much larger nature with homeless, and it was, it's dangerous. It's dangerous for the homeless people and people using drugs and, all kinds of things. And, the city of Boston decided, they had to clear it out, which they did. And, that was a while ago. I went back. It's, there was a shelter there, the Pine Street Inn. So I don't know if it's getting better or worse, but how to eradicate it, which is, or how to address it, is what we all want. Is there's not one single track we can go down.
No,
So
no, in fact, and you see it, and we treat our animals better.
yeah, unfortunately, and I don't know if it's a mental health crisis or not, but when I spoke at the council meeting 2 weeks ago about Bishop Markham, we had security guards at Bishop Markham. We tried it. The Housing Authority tried it a couple of years ago to address the homeless coming in, and the security guards started to become concerned, and they have to call the police anyway. We have no arresting. What folks should know, we have no arresting powers at the Lowell Housing Authority. They are citizens. They are residents. They are funded. We are funded by the state and federal government, but we don't have a police force to patrol the premises, and that's why we ask for a police presence. So when there's someone dealing drugs, and there are some people that deal drugs or using drugs, and under HUD regulations, residents can have a guest. They can have a guest come in. We have, there's about 1,200 evictions that the Lowell Housing Authority has been pursuing. So it's not as if, and it's very difficult because the judges give them stays. Okay, work with them, try to let them know we'll put no trespass, the judge will put no trespass orders. But if you have a guest, they can come in, and that's how they skirt the law. So, but, my point is, some of these homeless folks, they're very violent, and even the security guards, were concerned, and, that wasn't working, which is why we went to a substation, so.
Hey, we gotta say goodbye, kids.
Thank you for watching. Thank you for coming in. Thank you for getting up early,
Welcome.
and
Thank you for having us.
please come back. And
Both you guys, thank you for your excellence. Thank you for your courage to come and talk to the audience. Have a great day. Thanks. We'll see you tomorrow.